I forgot that you wrote that you thought the original Jordans were garbage. You wrote the first Air Jordan, in any true connoisseur's view, looked garbage. Now, this was 20 some odd years ago. I will let you go back on this opinion if you disagree with it anymore.
No,
you still believe that?
I still hold it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Jordan 1s to me are whack. They always will be whack. And,
Q&DA, relax and press play.
I'm Damon Amendolara, and today we're going inside the brain of the original sneakerhead. Bobbito Garcia started this journey back in the 70s. He's become a legend in almost everything he's ever done. The Source named his radio show the most important in hip-hop history, one that broke the careers of Nas and Biggie and Jay-Z. He's authored multiple books, including Where'd You Get Those? The Anthology on sneakers. He hosted It's the Shoes on ESPN, which was all about athletes and their kicks. He played hoops on the blacktop of New York City growing up. He played collegiate hoops as well, and then even played professionally in Puerto Rico. He's also been the voice of EA Sports, NBA Street. He has a new book out called Bobbito's Book of Bball, Bong. He's an icon in every sense of the word. See ya, Bobbito. How are you, man?
Man, DA, I don't know. That was a fantastic introduction. Thank you so much. I saw your resume. I was like, wow, this dude is like super genuine, official, like high powered, extra ingredients, man. You're fortified. You're not like a regular podcast dude. You're like fortified with vitamins and minerals.
I'm going to use that. This is a truly fortified with vitamins and minerals show that we got going on right now. I love it. I speak from experience because what I'm holding in my hand is my copy of Where'd You Get Those? And This is a book that I've had for probably 15 years or so.
Yes.
And it's an amazing
edition right there.
It is. Yeah. It's a first edition. It's an amazing anthology of sneaker culture that was really, you trace it back to the 60s through the late 80s with this version, but sneaker culture has exploded. But I wonder, is collecting still, is that dead? Because now it's just acquisition potentially because you can go on the internet. Like, this is a love letter to finding the secret. Yeah. Can you do that anymore?
Yes. I mean, sure. I think in the era that I came up with, being born in the 60s, there was a lot of effort, right? And things were not easy to find the shoe that nobody else had. And, it extended itself into customization. Okay, I can't find this model in red or light blue like I'm seeing North Carolina wear or like I'm seeing St. John's wear. So I'm going to paint the shoe or I'm going to embellish it. And so a lot of creativity was born out of that era as a matter of happenstance, circumstance, and also like just sort of passion for inventiveness. And a lot of things are laid out for us now. If I want the red shoe and I can't find it in my local mom and pop shops, I can go online. I can get it customized through Nike ID or the other platforms. I can find it as a secondhand purchase on multiple reseller outlets. So those are good. Access is good in general, right? But in the aspect of lack of access, which is the era that I came out of, it took a lot of just like a little bit of cutting edge to figure out how are you going to feel special in the space. And so collecting, for those that I was never a collector. I've always been a ball player who wanted dope sneakers for performance, for function. And that's how I came to it. And I wanted becoming a designer. I did collabs with Nike, Adidas, Puma, Pro Keds, Piola, K1X over, a decade in time. And I feel like, for those who collect, there's still a special affinity for, finding that sneaker that they feel special about. They may not wear it as we did, because if we were going to be rewarded, it had to be seen. And in this day and age, someone can take a photo and never wear the shoe and be globally renowned for being an owner of that model because they have X amount of followers and X amount of views and et cetera. And that's cool too. I mean, sneakers are to be interpreted based on the individual. Some people collect them as they would art, stamps, and coins. Some people like to wear them and really flex a nice outfit. And some people want to be on a court and have the shoe match their team uniform or their summer tournament shirt. And those are all different ways to approach it, and all of them are valid according to the individual.
I'm glad to hear that, because I am torn emotionally. I grew up a little later than you did, but still pre-internet. And so when I'm collecting sports cards and I'm a kid, I can vividly remember going to a sports card show and finding a 62 Mantle and a 62 Willie Mays and a 62 Hank Aaron. And me and my buddy Mike are like, we can't both buy all these cards, so we got to split them up, because ain't nobody going to leave this place without us getting them. So we got to split them up.
Right.
And so it wasn't like you could just, okay, you get this Mantle, I'll go on eBay after the show and I'll get mine. I remember seeing in the streets of New York a kid wearing a Fat Albert hat in like 95. And I'm like, dude, I need that Fat Albert hat. I'd never seen a Fat Albert hat. I got to go find that. So it was like that treasure map of trying to find it. Now I would just go online, and I could personalize, I could make it, what have you.
Yep.
So sometimes my soul is a little broken, because I'm like, is the magic still there? But that's a good way to put it, that there still is some magic out there. You just got to maybe work a little harder for it these days. Access is good.
Yeah, I mean, so you could have that magic still, because you could still go to the convention and purchase that in person, right? And it may also be available on eBay, but that feeling of being with your friends, being in a room, finding that can still happen. And there are people who sell collectibles who don't put items online. We've come to a point where Sotheby's and Christie's and Heritage. I mean, there's a lot of auction houses who are seeing what we're doing and what we have done in sneakers and hip hop. I mean, the Smithsonian acquired my archive, my hip hop archives. Cornell University acquired my basketball archives. I mean, we're at a point where, the era that I come from, and you're a little bit behind, but you're from that same era of digital born, right? Where everything is tactile, and we have to like be there to experience it. And I think that that'll always have a value, that'll always have a through line whereby people appreciate that and still can be a part of that, Yeah.
There is a nostalgia too for young kids now that grew up in a completely social media age. You see them reflecting back on like pre-cell phones or analog video or pre-4K, and they yearn for some of that, right? They think us old guys are actually cool because we went through some of that stuff that they never had a chance to do.
Yeah. Pre-4K, I've never even heard anybody say that.
That's right.
Pre-seeing someone's pimple,
Yeah.
They listening, DA. Everything we saying, DA.
What's good, everybody? What's up, everybody? We'd like to welcome you to the Q&DA party. Be good and be good to one another. Get comfortable, sit down and enjoy the show with your lover. Feeling good, doing well, that's the vibe that we bring. From your mic to your mind, from Cali to Maine. Q&DA, Q&DA, Q&DA. Relax and press play.
3 things to remind you of. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click on this button below me. That way you get alerts. Make sure you are joined as a member. Click on the button above me for member-exclusive videos and live chats. And shop at our merch store, watchdastore.com. I wanted to ask you, your new book is really cool because it has so much of the visual style of where'd you get those. And a lot of that is your photography, and it's documenting basketball in New York City and how the Big Apple and the 5 boroughs really inform modern basketball culture. And you lived it through all of your pickup games. It's amazing. And you lived it personally through pickup, through culture. I stand on the sports radio side of things and sports media, and I see old basketball players, retired basketball players, resisting the new game and the new athlete, the new player. And I'm wondering if you can put your finger on what that is, because it doesn't really happen in other sports. We don't watch the NFL and halftime at the Super Bowl is a bunch of guys griping about pass interference rules. In the NBA, though, there is a resistance to the new. And I'm wondering, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting phenomenon, right? And I do think that has actually, there's a through line, there's consistency. In the 70s and 80s, there were players who were from the 50s and 60s who were being critical of the new game in the 70s and 80s, both in the playground as well as in the pros, right? This is not relegated just to professional sports. And then in the 90s and 2000s, the same thing happened. And then in the 2000s to present, it's the game continues to evolve, and we can accept it or we can criticize it. I think being critical is generally a good thing, right? But I think being negative is not, right? Like positive criticism, saying, hey, like, there's no hand checking anymore. I would have dropped 50 a game if that didn't exist in my era. That's someone perhaps being negative because the hand checking stopped, and that's just what it is. That was a rules change that was decided by, the powers that be that oversee the game and officiating. Rules change for a reason. They're generally by consensus to improve the overall experience for both players and for fans. There's players who could say, I played college basketball when there was no 3-point line. I think it was 1986 or 87 when it became a thing. And, I think I might have had more points, more value to teams because I was a long distance shooter from the beginning. Same thing in high school. I didn't have a high 3-point. So I'm going to be negative and be like, these guys averaging 20 points a game and, or it can be like, I can celebrate it. Like, that was a great rule change. And that's amazing that someone can get extra points for shooting from so far away. So I think, there's value to both, the old timers and the retired players, giving foundation for people to understand where this game came from. And for those younger to learn from that, in the playground realm, there's been a tremendous amount of evolution for decades over, right? And we don't generally see that in broad spectrum until decades later. The transition of what happens on the playground to the pros is a lot quicker now because of social media and the increased documentation of what my community globally is doing out in the park, right? And so we see a quicker transition. So like, for example, 1v1 is like a big deal for content creators on YouTube, Instagram, etc., TikTok. They literally can show up at a park, 300 people can show up to watch, and some of them are like completely feeding their family off of playing one-on-one basketball. It's amazing. It's amazing. They're out of the context of the NCAA, the NBA, AAU. This is straight like park, right? So what does the WNBA do? I'm sorry, not the WNBA, Unrivaled, They see that 1v1 is like a big deal. And in their debut season, they do a 1v1 tournament with the top players in the league, which I thought was brilliant because they are paying attention to what's going on the asphalt. And we've seen that in the NBA, certain fancy moves, isolation. If you look at the 80s Celtics, who were like phenomenally successful, they played a beautiful game, but there wasn't much ISO. There wasn't a ball handler dribbling 15 times before he got a shot off in a 24-second time clock. So the game has evolved, right? And the teams that still play like the Celtics of the 80s are still highly successful. It's a team concept. It's a team game. But the highlights for ESPN and all the outlets and media and social, they're not showing the 5 passes, pick and roll to the bucket. They're showing the James Hardens, Kyrie Irvings, Stephen Curry's 10 dribbles, 12 dribbles, Trae Young to get the shot off. But that comes from the park. That isolation, that over dribbling, whether you like it or not, that comes from the park. That didn't come from coaches. That came from in the absence of coaches. And so, we constantly see the game evolve, and I embrace it all. I love basketball. I played organized and I played disorganized. I feel blessed to have had my feet in both worlds, and and express that globally. I've traveled with the game too.
There is a distinct personality to New York City. My parents are from Brooklyn. I grew up in the Hudson Valley in New York. A lot of my family is still in New York or from New York. And as your book chronicles, there's so much within basketball that originates from New York City. And there's a lot going on inside one city. You have the arts, you have the wealth and the finance, you have the sports, you have the media, you have a million different massive industries that get slammed together in a tight square space with a lot of different nationalities and a lot of different cultures, and you got to figure it out. So I'm wondering what you think it is about New York and the personality of it that you see in basketball.
You just completely explained it. But to push it further, so I've written 3 books, right? One that you had on screen, Where'd You Get Those? New York City Sneaker Culture, 1960 to 1987. My recent is Bobbito's book of Bball, Bong, which is a memoir. Where'd You Get Those is very autobiographical as well, written from first-person experiences. But in New York, you have this presence of street culture. You have the burgeoning emergence of sneaker sort of awareness in the 70s. And then predating all that is this basketball movement that since the 1930s, the city, as a governmental agency, the Parks and Recreation, have completely attempted to provide space for, right? Deliberately. In the 1930s, they wound up building hundreds and hundreds of outdoor courts, knowing that it would give an opportunity for people to have an outlet, a positive one, to create community. This is part of city planning. And New York has per capita more courts than any other city in the world. I would estimate. I don't know that for fact, but we have a lot of courts. You can't escape basketball in the city. It's the number 1 participatory sport in the world. Why is that? Because what we've done in New York over decades has resonated and created a ripple effect from Japan to China to Hong Kong to Brazil to Costa Rica. I run a tournament, FC21, all world 1v5, right? And I do it in 30 international cities. There's no reason why a singular person working out of his bedroom can create a global tournament with no major sponsors, no FIBA, no Olympic Committee, in 30 international cities. It's because FC21 is 1v5. So whoever has the ball, everybody else on the court is on defense. It's as New York of a game as you can get, right? And so I had all these local organizers hit me up like, yo, we want to bring it to LA. We want to bring it to the Bay Area. We want to bring it to DC, Philly. I want to bring it to Atlanta, Orlando, And that's how it's grown. It's grown completely organically. I'm not knocking on doors. It's people hitting me up, seeing what I'm doing in New York. And it's because New York has this intersection of sneakers and fashion and media and hip hop and just, the beautiful, my first film, Doing It in the Park, Pickup Basketball, NYC, right? I co-directed it with Kevin Coolio, who was from France. And he saw, like I would walk past a court and be like, oh, yo, let's suit up and play. He saw like, look at this urban landscape in the background and juxtapose that by the positioning of the court in the midst of these tenements or project buildings. Like he was seeing it completely different than I was, because that's not how courts are in other cities. And so you have all these elements that make New York very special. You throw in the history, which I detail in my book, Bobbito's book of Bball, Bong, Bong, the history and the folklore of this city, it's unparalleled. And so it just creates this really, really special environment that people want to be a part of.
People will think that the New York Knicks Bing Bong is like this Bong Bong, but describe the difference between it.
Well, I came up with the title for the book in 2023. Bong Bong is something that I would say while announcing games. I would say, oh, she got the whip, whop, bong bong, like, to do like a move like, da, whip, whop, bong bong to the finish. And there's the Toots and the Maytals and Sister Nancy from Jamaica. They produce songs, bong bong bong, so I was hearing bong bong my whole life. The RZA is a celebrated hip hop personality who's been saying bong bong in a lot of interviews and statements. I was saying bong bong in the 90s on the radio myself, unrelated to RZA. Props to him, but it's not like I got it from him. But yeah, coming up for the title for the book, I love alliteration, and I wanted something to be light and fun. Damon, no knock on all the memoirs that are out there about NBA players and NCAA champion coaches and stuff, but they're all like super serious, and the person, the subject is on the cover, like really, for me, basketball brings so much joy to my life. It always has, it always will. And so I wanted the title as well as the cover photo, which I did a hand embellishment on top of. That's my art. I wanted it to bring levity, clarity, and joy to whoever was going to either purchase it or at least be at a bookshop, a mom and pop brick and mortar, see it on the shelves and be like, wow, this looks cool. Like, I'm not used to seeing basketball books look like this.
Well, you have the perfect mind to tell this story. You are extraordinarily detail-oriented. Dates, specific addresses. You can recite neighborhoods, addresses, the court itself, the year. It's all, you have this incredibly organized, detail-oriented brain.
Thank you.
But you also have a colorful language and whimsy to how you describe everything. And of course, aesthetically, you see things in a really colorful pattern. You can see it in all the books, the graphic illustrations, the designs of everything, and your photography as well. So it's a really great, I think, vantage point, perspective, prism to tell this story. I think the book is awesome.
Thank you.
I broke out Where'd You Get Those to reread it a little bit before we jumped on, and I forgot that you wrote that you thought the original Jordans were garbage, that they were that they were nasty. And I think today, like, everybody would just assume, oh my God, they're amazing. But you wrote the first Air Jordan, in any true connoisseur's view, looked garbage. Now, this was 20 some odd years ago. I will let you go back on this opinion if you disagree with it anymore.
No,
you still believe that?
I still hold it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny. Damon, I get asked to be interviewed at least like once a week by various outlets, and that's having nothing to do with my new memoir. I'm just related to sneakers, because it's a heavy topic, and so I turned down interviews left and right because I'm like, clearly you didn't read my book, clearly you know nothing about me. You just are doing a Google search and being like, oh, this dude wrote a celebrated book that's considered the Bible for sneaker culture. Like, the Jordan ones to me are whack. They always will be whack. And, it's just, if you take it out of context, they sold a lot of pairs. And for that reason, people elevate their status, right? But if you come from the the design and the performance aspect, they were an inferior shoe. The person who designed them at Nike would even say that. Nike would even say that. Jordan would even say that. They improved. They had, they spent a lot of money on R&D. That's called research and development. They improved the model every year, which props to them, because prior, like the Julius Erving Dr. J, right, which was most likely the most celebrated signature silhouette prior to the Jordan, right? Julius Erving's, all-time NBA player, all-star NBA champ, etc. Changed the game, how we approach it with his high-flying style. It was the Converse Dr. J was the same shoe year after year after year, right? I mean, subtle changes, but it's the same silhouette. We go from the Jordan 1 to the Jordan 2, and it's like a huge leap. The Jordan 2 to Jordan 3, a huge leap, building up to the 7 and the 11. I mean, each year it's then take a Hatfield, the genius, he's involved. So each year we're seeing like a huge leap in the performance and design of the shoe. And so the Jordan 1 is now, people who love it, I don't discount their opinion. It was special to them. It might be their first shoe that they spent a lot of money for, or they love Michael Jordan. He becomes this amazing, successful, ball player in NBA history. And so that's what's special to them. But I don't know anyone who will say, "Oh my God, I miss playing in the Air Force Ones. They were so good to play in." Like, nah, nobody says that. And I'm a ball player. That's I'm coming from the ball player perspective. I know it was important shoe to skaters, important shoe to collectors, to fans. Cool. I don't check off on any of those. I'm a ball player first and foremost. So the Air Jordan 1s were inferior to the Air Force 1s, which it came out the year before. And so it was like you get offered like a delicious home cooked meal. You're not gonna go back to McDonald's, Have to.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Before we get out of here, I'm looking at this incredible record collection behind you, and all I want you to do is pull out a random record. Okay, just pull out whatever one, and I just want you to give me a thumbnail on why that's special.
All right.
Give me one.
I'm gonna go off camera now.
Yep, off camera. Pull out whatever you want.
All right, so this is Rock Rubber 45s. It was. Let me take it out of the plastic. This was it's a picture disc, 7-inch vinyl. That was the title track to my autobiographical documentary of the same title, Rock Rubber 45s. And it was the first record that I ever produced. Now I had made beats in the 90s. None of them came out, and wasn't particularly proud of it. But in Rock Rubber 45s, I put together an all-star cast. I had Eddie Palmieri, Latin jazz legend, 11 Grammys. I had Robert Glasper, 3-time Grammy Award winner. I had Mireya Ramos on violin, Latin Grammy Award winner. I had hip-hop legend Rob Swift. I did vocals for it. I had Jay Zone and the Do-Rights do the keyboard and drums. I had John C. Gonzalez de Puerto Rico do the percussion. I mean, this is like a phenomenal record. And there's only 300 copies pressed up. So I'm very, very proud of this. But on the flip side is Pharoah Monch featuring Jill Scott. and it's a song called Still Standing. Monch, who's my favorite MC of all time, he wrote a verse. He inspired by my film. And I literally cried. I was so overjoyed the first time I heard it, when he sent it to me. And it's not available digitally. It's only available on this picture disc. And so this is like a huge thing for my career. And so I find that to be particularly special. If you want me to, so I didn't just pull out a random 7-inch. That's a major, major, major milestone for me in my career.
See, even better. Bobbito Garcia, I thought we would just have a random record you'd pull out and say, oh, actually, the percussionist on this is awesome, and here's why. And instead, you pulled out like a memoir of your life and career. So you took it and you zapped it into outer space, which is what you do with all these projects. And so it's even better. I got to tell you, we get a lot of pitches, a lot of books, a lot of authors, a lot of guests at the show. And we got yours. And I said, we got to go after them.
Cool.
And when I got back from my producer, Bobbito said yes. I was like, yes. I pumped my fist. I don't pump my fist for a lot of guests. I said, yes, we got Bobbito. So I've taken too much of your time already, man. But I think the world of you. And I think your storytelling and your eye and your diversity and your versatility. And most importantly, you find the warmth and the positivity in everything. That viewpoint I really resonate with, especially today where you sweep the internet and so much of it is harsh critique and negativity and cynicism and bickering. I really find your vantage point super valuable. So, yeah, man, just big ups for an incredible, legendary career. And this book, I hope, does gangbusters.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Wow. I have to say, you're a phenomenal host. You remind me of myself. It's like,
appreciate you, man. That means a lot.
You approach it in a very cerebral way. So yeah, I appreciate the love, and shout out to the producer who brought me on board, and everybody out there. Peace.
Peace. Bobbito Garcia joining us here on the show. I appreciate it, my man. Thank you.
All right, later.
Once again, a reminder: subscribe, join, and shop. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel for alerts. Click on this button below me. Make sure you are joined to be a member of this channel for member-exclusive deep dives on this chat as part of our Raw feed series and live chats where you can ask me anything monthly, and shop at our merch store, watchdastore.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm DA, Damon Amendolara. See you next time.